Hello everyone, this is Magbo Gaming here, and if you're wondering why I'm wearing a scarf today, I just wanted to try a unique look for this video, I guess. But anyway, that's not what this video is all about. So over the years, Nintendo has created cartridges so you could play your games on. Like back in the NES days, it was this big cartridge. Like, wow, these cartridges are huge. I didn't even grow up with these. I grew up with the Super Nintendo, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty big. And then you put in the cartridge slot. So yeah, Nintendo was pretty creative when they come with their cartridges, which is even bigger than the Ataris. But then as they moved on to the Super Nintendo, they shrunk a little bit, right? Fun fact is that the whole game itself is only like the bottom half of this whole thing, as you can see in the picture here. So the top of it is just plastic, just to be presentable, I guess. So all those extra space they have right there, they just wanted to make it more presentable for the consumers, I guess. So we got the Super Nintendo controller. Then they went a little bit smaller as each generation goes, and this is an N64 controller. And yeah, both sides. So they managed to make a cartridge smaller and able to put more graphical stuff in it than they did the last generation. Moving on, they moved from cartridges to CDs, but this was a 1.0 gigabyte mini DVD, which is why a lot of third parties did not want to touch any of these two, because this one you cannot even put much RPGs in it, so they went for the disc format. And I guess this one, since DVDs were being popularized, a lot of RPGs are being poured on the PS2 instead of this, because this has less than half of a capacity that this has. Then they moved on finally to a regular CD, just like the PlayStation 2 and stuff, for the Wii and Wii U, both right here. Let me just show it to you real quick. So yeah, and now we finally move on to the smallest thing, the Switch, which is smaller than even a 3DS cartridge. We even had a Game Boy Advance and a Game Boy way before that. Game Boy came first. It was much smaller than most of the other console cartridge, of course, because of the handheld. And then they come up with smaller. So the whole trend is with this whole thing, that for the most part, except for the GameCube to Wii, which this just made it bigger, cartridges just get smaller and smaller as each generation passes by. And the little video idea that I have is, look at the size comparison of an NES and this. Look at the comparison. And this holds way more gigabytes, way more data, a lot more data here than in this thing. This thing could barely hold a few megabytes or something, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So what we're gonna do today, I want you to pause this video for a moment after I say this. How many Nintendo Switch cartridges can you put on top of an NES without stacking them? And maybe some of you already have the answer and stuff, but this is something I didn't hear of anybody doing this. I was always like curious, like how many of these Switch cartridges can fit in there. So for today, we got a bunch of Switch cartridges right here to test it out. Yep. And this is not even half of the games I own, by the way, so you get the idea. And I want to let you know that by the end of this month, before this year ends, we are going to have an update for the Nintendo Switch Complete Collection, which is going to be even bigger than the other one, and the other one already has 12K views or more. So I wonder how this one's going to do when it's named 2024. But that's for that video. Here is another Nintendo Switch related video. This, in other words, is going to be Nintendo Switch cartridges on top of older Nintendo cartridges. So let's see how this goes. I hope that you look forward to it, and now you can pause the video for a moment. Guess, don't cheat, be honest, don't cheat, because cheating is just take a fun out of it. Don't even stack it up yourself, just make a guess and then put it in the comment section below. How many Nintendo Switch can you put on top of this without stacking them? And I'm going to show you what I mean by that right now. And also, if you have watched my shorts on the N64 and Game Boy cartridges, putting the Switch games on top of it, this is the more complete video. And here I'm going to show you every single cartridges, because of course you can't do it all in a YouTube short. So I might as well make a video on it to show you the full detail. But of course, you know, what I'm gonna do with these shorts is that I'm gonna use these shorts to promote this video pretty much. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do before I upload this video. So if you see this video, you probably see it from a short. So I hope that you enjoy. So this is the only NES game that I own, and the only reason I bought this up to now is to actually test how many Switch cartridges you could put on top of this without stacking them. So we're gonna do it like this. So there is one Switch cartridge, there's two, there's three. As you can see, you could barely fit one on the handle right here, but I guess if you want to put it this way, you could. Let's put some more here first. Okay. We're gonna try to put it as exactly. And remember, when I mean by not stacking, you cannot put it on top of another Switch cartridge. You cannot do that. You can only put it like on top of the NES cartridge. So for us to realistically know how many Switch games can be on top of it, so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's crazy. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You know, part of it is kind of like out, so we'll have to calculate how much that's gonna be after that. I think this is 20 at this point. So I'll definitely organize it, but look at the technology. Look how far technology has advanced, going from that cartridge all the way to this. Now let me see if I could organize it better. Let me see if there's a way I could fit more without them falling over, of course. Yeah, I cannot stack it, so I could probably do this. But some of them will be sticking out, so realistically, I don't think you could fit like more without like falling them over and stuff. So realistically, let's see if they could stay up. Yeah, so if you were to put a full cartridge on top of this, then that would actually be around 20 cartridges. Yep. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 21. This one is staying there for some reason. So if we could only put a little bit more, then that would be a total of 23 cartridges. Yep, 23. I'm trying to see. So without stacking any of the other Switch games or anything like that, more or less, I would say between 22 to 23. If you know the exact number, feel free to put down the comment section below from this timeline of the video. So let's move on to the Super Nintendo cartridges. As you can see now, we got a Super Nintendo cartridge right here. Very classic. The very first game I ever played in my life. And all these Switch games that are super small right here. Let's see how many of these Switch games we're able to stack on top of this without stacking another Switch. So you could put like maybe 3 of these on each side. Okay, let's see. You could probably put 3 of them without them falling over. So that's a good start. So that alone is already 6. Now if we were to put the rest of the games on top, let's see if there's enough space for that. So right here, we cannot put another Switch game because we'll be stacking it and we cannot stack it. So we just gotta keep going down here. Let's see how far we can go. I think I already know the number. So I guess the rule also applies. The thing could be sticking out a little bit as long as it stays on top of the Super NES cartridge. So that's the trick. So here it is, guys. There is a little gap right here. But, of course, if you try to put it, you're putting on top of it and we'll be breaking the rules there. So, basically, as my observation goes, you could fit a total of, let me just put it, I'm going to try to put them in the middle right here. You can put 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yep, you could fit 18. A little bit less than the NES, but that was pretty obvious, right? 18 Switch games you could put on top of an SNES cartridge. Now, if you saw my shorts for the N64 and the Game Boy, I guess we could show a full video of that as well. So it's definitely gonna be less, but if you want, pause it, make a guess of how many you could put on top of those cartridges as well. If you want to make a list of it afterwards, feel free to do so. So yeah, let's move on to the N64. So I technically have to knock them all down. I could knock them all down like this. It's not gonna happen anything. And then we have all these Switch games. I'm gonna move aside for a moment. And then we got here the Spider-Man N64. Why I chose the Spider-Man? Well, because I love the color red. And this is a red cartridge. So you get the idea. Okay, so here it has like an edge or something like that, so it won't be perfectly aligned. But we're going to try. So we got 1, we got 2, we got 3, we got 4, we got 5. So that's 5 already. 6, 7. I believe it's 10, but I think you could fit at least 1 or 2 more on the top without it falling over. So we are going to give it a shot. I don't want to move it all the way outside the edge because it would defeat the purpose. But yeah, you could technically fit. Let's see if this one could stay over. I don't think it will. I really don't think so. We cannot move it too much to the side because it'll be a little bit at the edge. You could if you want to. You could do it like this if you want to, and I think it'll fit 13. Some of them are kind of out of the edge, but it doesn't really matter too much. What matters is that you don't stack any of them on top of it, and it doesn't fall over. So you could put 13 Switch games on top of the N64 cartridge without any of them falling over and without stacking like this. So yeah, that was the short there too. So let's move on to the Game Boy. So as you can see here, this is what a Game Boy cartridge was made, the very first generation of portable Nintendo handheld. At the time, it was already far smaller than this, right? You could probably fit at least 4 Game Boys on top of this, Game Boy games on top of this, pretty easily. So there is that. There is a big difference in size because one's for the home console, the other one's for the Game Boy. Of course, when the Super Nintendo came, it was a little bit smaller, but you could fit like 2 of them. But how many Switch cartridges can you fit on top of this still? Probably a little bit more. Yep, so we are going to do this. We're gonna do this. I think we can put 6 on top of it. Doesn't fall over. So let's have a closer look on that. Yep. And you can see I have Super Mario Bros. Wonder up there. I got the 3 Pokemon games. And now we're gonna see how it goes with the Game Boy Advance cartridge. I guess the more smaller the cartridge is, pretty much the less Switch games you could put on top of it. So this one you probably can only put up to 3 because at the time this was already a very small cartridge. You could put 3 Nintendo Switch cartridges on top of this without it falling over. So yeah, this one's pretty easy. Anybody could have guessed that, honestly, to be honest. And we're gonna do one last thing, which is the 3DS cartridge. And let's see the size comparison of this. Yep, the size comparison is pretty small. And also, fun fact, the Vita cartridge and the Nintendo Switch cartridge are pretty much similar in size, but the thickness, the Nintendo Switch cartridge is much more thicker. So this is a lot more thinner, the Vita one, because this is shaped like an SD card in many ways. If you have an SD card, it's very similar to that. But they're pretty much the same in size, so you could definitely stack one of them on top of a Vita. And then, since DS and 3DS are pretty much the same size, except for this thing sticking out, which is the only difference, you could stick 2 of them on top. Can you stick two of them on top without falling off here? Probably, but you know, it's kind of like defeats the purpose at this point. It's pretty obvious. Like, maybe you could fit two of them, but they're not gonna fit completely here. And what we're trying to do is fit it here. I don't know, just a food for thoughts. This was kind of like a fun video that I decided to make because as technology evolves, we have gone from this cartridge right here. We have gone from this cartridge all the way down to very small cartridges like this where you can fit up to 20 of these here. So technology, as it advances, it becomes smaller and smaller. And of course, micro SD cards, who knows if the future cartridges are going to be the size of micro SD cards. I'll show you a comparison real quick. So as you can see here, let's get a closer look. The size comparison between a Switch cartridge and a micro SD card is still like, this is so much smaller. So you would imagine maybe, I don't know if the Switch 2 is actually going to come with cartridges around this size. I have no idea. I prefer it doesn't, because if it gets any smaller than this, you could easily lose it. If you could already easily lose Switch games and Vita games like this, for example, if you could lose these so easily, then just imagine if game cartridges becomes this small. Sure, you could definitely fit a bunch of them here. But, you know, how much can you stack of micro SD cards on top of a Switch? This much. And there's a SIM card too that I wanted to like add to it as well. Yeah, SIM cards are even smaller. SIM cards are very, very small. As technology advances, chips are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So, yeah. Can you imagine like a micro SD card? How many micro SD cards can you fit on top of an NES? That'll be a video for another day, but you can guess. That will be the final question of today. If you want to guess how many micro SD card can you stack on top of this with using the same exact rules as I did with the Switch cartridges, then feel free to guess below. If I'm gonna guess, I would say between 30 to 40 you could stack on top of it while stacking other SD cards on top of other SD cards. So, this little technology, the little teeny tiny technology, 64 gigabytes. This barely holds a few megabytes. So can you imagine like how far we have went through in technology today? Yeah, so you get the comparison there. There is a huge comparison in storage devices today that is so crazy that I believe that, yeah. Let's get to the conclusion of this whole thing. So yeah guys, let me just show it off. We went from this storage device. This is a storage device as well to store a game that you're going to be playing on the console. Still a storage device within. It holds certain megabytes of data. So this is the how much the NES cartridge can hold. And then you compare it with a 128 little tiny card like this. Anyway, this is a 128 microchip. Matter of fact, microchips are even smaller than this. I would dare to say even that microchips are even smaller than freaking SIM cards like these. So you could tell that you could fit so much more data in just a little tiny SD card like this. This technology has been around for a while. And before, you needed something bigger like this in order to fit a lot of stuff. But then again, you know, back in the day, they used like basic technology, had limited storage capacity. They didn't know like how to expand it at the time. So definitely, what you guys think of this video? This is an idea that I had for a while because Switch games can still, future Nintendo console can get even smaller than this. It shows off. And where we are right now is pretty darn small. And I prefer it not to get any smaller than this because then I definitely cannot leave it out there. Eventually, it will get to nothing. Like there will not be any physical items. It will get from this little device to thin air. Because that's going to be just data. Data that you can store in the cloud. Data that will become digital only games, which can only be stored in hardware devices like you know, a game console and stuff. You won't even need a cartridge anymore. But I do like the fact of cartridges, how they're designed, how they're collectible, how you could display them, And then as technology gets smaller and smaller, you don't even need a cartridge at some point. So just think of it right there as you see how we evolved over the years. Technology is definitely not the same right now as it was 20 to 30 years ago. So that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this interesting video. Be sure to check my shorts if you haven't yet. But if you were leaded to this video by a short that I made, then feel free to let me know in the comment section below what you think of this video. Like what theories you have, how far technology is going to go going forward. Is it going to get to the point that it's digital only like we are predicting? Or is there still other cartridges they can make? Will cartridges become bigger again? I doubt it. With technology going as it is, I doubt that cartridges are going to get bigger again. But you never know. Who knows if some retro company is going to invent something that you have a reasonable sized cartridge. But anyway, that's all I have to say about this. I hope that you keep up the hunt if you're hunting for video games still. Make sure you know what you want, have a budget, have a list of games you really want to get. And I wish you luck in the hunt. Very soon I'm going to be updating you guys on the games that I'm looking for and what I have right now, and maybe some ideas for next year as well. So hopefully you look forward to that. If you could send me some ideas as well in the future, how you want my channel to evolve, you also let me know about that, and I'll let you know. And I'll see you all in the next time. Magbo Gaming out. Bye bye. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other related videos here as well. I also have a Discord server you can join for the video game collecting community, and an Instagram you can follow as well. I even got some merch you may want to check out, my TeePublic link below. Hope to see you again soon.